Okay, so this morning I want to go through some secondary colour mixes with you for the secondary colours, which are pretty much the bases for all of the colours that I use in realistic portraiture. Obviously they're not going to be the same if you're using green light or something like that, but for natural lighting these are the colours I use. This is my basic set. So we've got yellow ochre. This is the artificial version, which is PY42, not the one that's dug out of the ground, but the one that's manufactured. I prefer this one because PY42 isn't as gritty, and it's a slightly brighter colour than most of the natural yellow ochres. So it doesn't matter what brand it is, that happens to be Rembrandt. Then I've got Magenta. This happens to be Winsor & Newton, but that's PR122. But it doesn't matter which one you use. You know, Jackson's or whatever else. Yeah, it's the same number. Burnt umber, which is PBR7, but then so is raw umber. It's its brother. It's just this one's cooked and this one's raw. Literally, this one's been calcinated or heated, and this one isn't. So burnt umber, raw umber. Yeah, that's super cheap. It doesn't matter how much paint costs as long as it works like it should. This is French ultramarine. It's nearly run out. PB29. Finally, I've got titanium white, which is PW6. And I've got black. Don't be afraid of black. It's a great colour. And PBK9. This is ivory black. And I've just noticed a little hole in there, which is why I've got black on my fingers. It's not too bad. It's a bit of tape on that later. That'd be fine. So let's put these to one side. I'll just squeeze some of them out so you can see them. Rembrandt's normally a little oily. Yeah, you can see, look at it, dribbling out oil there. So I get a little bit of loo roll there and just pour that on there for a bit. Yeah, I like Rembrandt, but they can be a little bit oily. It doesn't always come out that way, in fairness. So a bit of yellow ochre. Try and do them in some sort of order. This is magenta. Quickly whizzing through them. Burnt umber. I need more of that. Use more of that actually normally. Burnt umber. Raw umber. A bit thicker, that one. They're all slightly different consistency depending on where you buy them from and depending on the pigment as well. It's not always where you buy it from. It can be just the pigment itself has a different consistency. And blue. They run out. Ultramarine. Don't need very much of that. And finally, and these normally go up there actually. I don't normally keep the white and black with the colours. I normally keep them separately because they're not really... I don't think of white and black as colours. I think of them, I know that they are because they have a ability to change other colours spectrally, so they are colours. I mean, white is slightly blue and black is definitely blue. But I try to think of them more as modifiers of the other colours. Oops. Yeah, I thought I had stuck to there. Well, really. Now, I think of black and white more as modifiers of the other colours than colours in their own right. So anyway, let's go through them, shall we? And see what we can mix up with them. I tend to try and mix up these colours relatively dark, for want of a better word, because normally adding white to them or another modifier will change the it's easy. Basically, it's easier to brighten something as to darken it with oil colour normally. So with the yellow, yellow ochre, what can you make with that? What can you make with yellow ochre, folks? Well, you can mix yellow ochre with a number of the other colours, obviously. Do I tend to mix it with red? Occasionally. I haven't been lately, but you can do, yeah. But you can mix it with burnt umber. I normally have my palette on on my table palette has normally got a grey piece of paper underneath it and not a white, but you can't see the colours as well, so I'll put white under it today. So you get a nice sort of raw sienna. So why bother buying raw sienna? Look, there you go. Yellow ochre, burnt umber. Put more of that in it, it just makes it darker, basically. A bit of loo roll to wipe my palette on, palette knife on. Yeah, look. Don't use anything expensive. It's a bit of loo roll, and just turn that over when I finish with it. Yellow ochre, and what else can you mix with that? Well, a common one I'd make would be blue. So pick out a bit of ultramarine and yellow ochre, and you have a nice green. This is going to be a very blue green because I've picked up more blue. Well, it's not too bad actually. Not too bad. Makes a nice mossy green, and most flesh colours are actually slightly muted. They're not normally very. Now, if I add more yellow to that, it's going to be a yellower green. And you add more blue to it, and it's going to cool it down. But what I normally do is actually I normally add a fair bit of burnt umber to that one. And that gives me a lovely brownish green, and also the burnt umber will help it dry, but that's not why I'm doing it. The burnt umber actually makes it a nice brownish green. And when you add white to these, you can see their true sort of tint potential, if you like. So that's actually quite cool. So if I wanted to warm that up, I'll just add more yellow to it. That's actually quite a cool green at the moment. Another colour I haven't actually included, which I should do, and I'm going to do that now, is Venetian red or burnt sienna. I'm going to stick that there because I'm using that a lot at the moment. It's iron oxide. So where to go now? I've done that. Let's try a classic nostril and ear colour will be magenta and burnt umber. That gives you a lovely pink. That's the colour you get inside ears and nostrils, and add a little bit of white to that so you can see that. Can you see that? It's a lovely colour. A classic, so I'm trying to keep my thoughts in check. Another good one will be yellow ochre. Use a lot of yellow ochre, yeah. I guess it acts more as a kind of a better modifier than just adding white to something. Now, adding Venetian red to that, burnt sienna, and that makes a lovely orangey colour. And these are all secondary colours because I'm using primaries as my basis, and brown. And brown is a mixture of, all three primaries, red, yellow and blue, in different quantities to give you different types of brown. So the browns are shortcuts really, and really useful. Plus they dry things faster. What else can you make out of this? Oh, purple of course. So blue, red, magenta. Now that's a very blue purple at the moment. If I add more magenta to it, it'll make it warmer. I can see that warming up nicely. Now if I add a little white to that, you'll be able to see that colour better. Yeah. Let's do a little bit more white so you can see it better. You can see that? Lovely purple. And now with that purple I will probably add another good dollop of burnt umber to that one. It's a flesh tone. So people say, you know, can you show me how to do a flesh tone? And you'd be like, well, yeah, I can show you how to do a single flesh tone, but all these colours are going to be used in a single sort of Caucasian portrait, really. And I've added quite a lot of burnt umber to that one. It doesn't change the colour a great deal, but it does mute it a little bit, and it makes it more realistic. And this is what you're aiming for, really. If you're going for realism, if you're not, then it doesn't really matter. But there you go, got a muted colour there, muted purple. So another colour that will be on the palette will be, talking of muting colours, will be white with raw umber. And this will act as a really useful grey to knock the other colours back with, or to reduce their vibrancy, really. So instead of reducing the vibrancy of white or black, I'll do it with that. This lovely grey, that lovely grey there is so useful. If I'd pick that up, mix it with any one of these secondary colours to improve their kind of, or just tone them down and to improve their sort of realism, really. And then any of these colours, of course, if I add white to them, it's going to give me a more realistic, usually white skin tone. Because us I don't know, Europeans are pretty pale, so we use a lot of white in our skin tone, sadly. So nearly all of the skin tones are tints of these colours. So a tint is a colour that you've added white to. Yeah. Now you can add raw umber and magenta, and that gives you a more raspberry sort of bluer version of this brown here. It's kind of more purpley. You can see that. It's more purpley than that one. And that's also really useful sometimes. Another colour that I'm going to commonly use is going to be tiny bit of blue, white. Get a bit mucky that one. I've obviously picked up some of the purple on there. White and a tiny bit of yellow. We're talking micro amounts. Now you hardly use any of this colour because of what I use it for. There you go. It's getting there. Well, I'm aiming for a sort of duck egg bluey sort of grey colour. We're going a bit too yellow. It's definitely purpley because I picked purple up. Naughty colour. So anyway, what I'm aiming for is a mix of ultramarine, white, without the purple, and yellow, and that should give me a bluish grey. And that colour, when used in eyeballs, basically, it's the white of the eye, and you just add more white to it to make it the right shade you want. But further into the recesses, it's going to be a darker version of this, and nearer to the pupil, normally it's going to be a whiter version of that. But it's ultramarine, yellow ochre, and white, mostly white. And it just gives you a slightly dirty version of white, and that's what an eyeball tends to look like. Well, that's what I use. You use something else if you want, but that's kind of what I use. Okay, have I missed any other colours? Any mixes? So we've got orange, green, purple, and these reds. And any number of these colours mixed together will give you different variations. I'm trying to think if I've forgotten any. I don't think so. Tap, tap, tap. The other thing you might use is black and white, and that will give you that will give you a bluish grey to work with, which can be really useful. So you've got a warm brownish grey that you can use, and a bluish grey which is made from black. And if you add black to yellow, run out of space, but that's okay. These aren't that common, these ones. Black and yellow, oh, black and yellow, not white and yellow, dummy. You'll get green, which just proves my point that black is blue. It makes quite a nice green. Black, I mix quite often mix black with. I mix black with raw umber. There's raw umber there to give me a more realistic eyeshadow colour. Eyeshadow, not eyeshadow. Eyelash, eyebrow. Yeah. Black and raw umber, or I might use burnt umber and black, or I might use burnt umber and raw umber to cool down the get a mix between something that's semi-neutral between burnt and raw umber, because this one's green, raw umber's greenish, and burnt umber's reddish. And if you mix the two, you can cool it down. But you can also add black to them, which can be really useful for hair colours. And all of these colours I will use as the bases for my my skin tones, and I will just add white usually to them, unless we're getting near to the sort of highlight on a cheek or a nose, in which case I'll go in with more of a yellow and white mixture, so you've got a sort of creamy mixture, and then eventually a white that's got a microscopic hint of yellow in it to give a highlight. Sometimes it's pure white, but not very often. There you go. I hope that's useful. So when someone says, what are my flesh tones for painting somebody's white, then or Asian, and actually quite often somebody's black, a lot of these colours will figure as well in there. But these are the colours that I'll go to. There you go. Hope that's helpful.